Okay, so tonight we are talking about disincarnation. Death is not the end, but a transition. And my name is Katie Anderson. And I hope everyone's doing well after everything that's going on. Tomorrow starts our big day at home, right? So hopefully we can connect a little bit of what's going on to today's lecture. And I've broken it down into 3 different parts. Death, more talking about the death for a physical body. Disincarnation, which we will talk about, is when the parish spirit disconnects from our physical body. So hopefully we're going to be able to understand more the difference between death and disincarnation. And then related a little bit to the transition that we're going on right now in our planet. So having said that, let's take a look at death. Death should not instill fear in virtuous persons because with faith, they have the certainty of a future life. And to talk about this a little bit more, I'm going to talk about the death of our body, the physical death of our body, the divine laws and what the divine laws have to say about death, and lastly, faulty views that we have of death. So let's take a look at Spirit's book question 68. What causes the death of organic beings? The exhaustion of their organs. Like when a machine is out of order, it stops working. When the body becomes ill, life withdraws from it. So let's take a look at what that means a little bit more, and I'm going to explain a little bit quickly what vital fluid is. So vital fluid is a fluid that we all receive when we incarnate, and it's kind of like the gas in a car or maybe like a battery in a toy that kind of gives us that life. And we have a certain amount of vital fluid. Each person is different based on their incarnatory plan. And maybe some people have 60 years, 80 years, 20 years. Again, it all depends on your plan. And there are some exceptions. You can go and get your gas, refilled perhaps in certain situations. Like let's say the spirits see that you're following your plan very well, your mission's going very well. Let's give you a little bit more time because you're doing so well. And you can also maybe not use all of your vital fluid if you are, for example, not taking good care of your body. A good example is of Andre Luis. He did a little bit of drinking maybe, and it caused maybe some cancer. So there are some things that we can do that maybe shorten that vital fluid and shorten our time here on Earth. But just overall, we need to understand that the death of our physical body is when the organs pretty much stop, right? And everything dies. We all die. It's not something that we can really control. But there's something that we can control, which is how we live our lives, right? Maybe how we take care of our bodies and stuff. So that's important that we can do. Let me see. Next question. Spirit's book question 149. What happens to the soul, the incarnated spirit, at the time of death? It becomes a spirit again, meaning it returns to the spirit world that it had briefly left. So let me ask you, what is the real world? Here on Earth or there in the spiritual world? What do you guys think?
The spiritual world.
Spiritual world. That is where we originated, and that's where we will keep going back. Every time we reincarnate on Earth or another planet, we will still be going back to our spirit world, which is our home. And another question, are we spirits or do we have spirits?
We are spirits.
We are spirits, right? Because we continue being spirits. We're immortal spirits, and it's our body that is temporary. So it's important for us to remember that we are spirits and we don't stop being spirits. So this life that we have here on Earth is material. It helps us to grow, and it's an instrument, but it is temporary. We'll always go back to our original, right, world, our original home in the spirit world. Let's take a look now at what the law of reincarnation says about death. So the law of reincarnation is pretty much the same as the law of disincarnation, because we are born and we die, and we're born and we die. So what do you guys understand to be the law of reincarnation? What comes to mind? And you guys answer. No one? So,
Sorry, I don't even know if I'm in mute or not mute. Can you hear me?
no, it's fine. Yeah, that's what we're here to test for. Yeah, go ahead and test and try to see if I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, so the question is, what is the law of reincarnation?
Exactly. What comes to mind?
The law that regulates every time we have a body, and
Very good.
is,
And do you think that it would be just if we didn't have the law of reincarnation? So it wouldn't be very just if we didn't have the law of reincarnation. Let's look at the definition we have here from the Spirit's book. So it allows for the atonement and the progressive betterment of humankind. Without it, where would justice lie? So we're constantly reincarnating, and each time, hopefully, we're progressing more and more. And without it, where would justice lie? And I say that because there are so many people who just believe in one life. They believe that we have only this life, and that's it. When we die, we don't really go into anywhere, maybe, or maybe we're stuck in heaven or hell forever. But then how can we explain then that the opportunities that maybe one person has, lots of good things that happen into their life, and then maybe a person in the same family or the same background have lots of difficulties and lots of challenges, and yet they only have that one life. So it's really nice for us that we believe in reincarnation, because it gives us that hope and the reason to keep on working on these challenges, because we know that it's going to help us get better. So that, I think, is a positive note for us, that it helps us kind of have a reason why things are happening to us. Who can read this for me? Who can unmute themselves? Let's see who can unmute themselves first.
I can.
Go ahead, Bruno.
Death is a transition, a return to our spiritual homeland. Let no one be mistaken, there is no death. Wherever man turns his thought to, there is only life. From the composite matter spring up many complex forms of life. The caterpillar dies in its cocoon only to rise as a butterfly in its wonderful transformation. The seed dies in order to liberate the plant. The semen dies in order to form a body.
So it all seems very magical when I read this. It seems also very perfect and nice. And so we really see that, God knows what he's doing. God is all knowing, and everything kind of fits into place very perfectly. And it kind of gives us a sense of, well-being, and knowing that, everything is going to be all right. So I think I really like this paragraph, because it helps us, give us that hope. Let me go to my next page here. So we talked about the death of our body, physical, kind of the definition according to the Spirit's book. And we talked about what the divine laws say about disincarnation. And now let's go see what we see of faulty views of death. What do I mean by that? Spirit's book 941. The fear of death perplexes many. Where does this fear come from in people if they have before them the whole future? This fear is misplaced, but what do you expect? People have been thoroughly brainwashed since childhood to believe in heaven and hell. So according to this view, that we're brainwashed supposedly since childhood, according to some religions, the majority of us would go to hell or to purgatory, because since we are so far away from perfection, we still commit so many mistakes. And so we're far from being perfect and following the divine laws all the way. And so we kind of are maybe more scared. We have this popular belief that's in movies and in songs and the way that people talk about heaven and hell. And so it kind of makes us kind of wondering, like, what's going to happen after death? And then this thought of hell sometimes will make people go to one extreme and reject God and reject, hell and heaven and all these ideas altogether, maybe because they have a guilty conscience of, what they're doing, or maybe some people just want to kind of live life without worrying about the consequences. But either way, this kind of idea of heaven and hell that we have sometimes pushes people away and makes them become atheists. And so they go, far away to one extreme. And then we have some other people who do believe in the afterlife, do believe in heaven and hell, or in our case, reincarnation. And we want to kind of guarantee our happiness in the afterlife. And so it's common for us to practice a lot of outward practices. For example, we know that Catholicism, they have baptism and communion. They go to church and they sing. Us Spiritists, right, we attend these talks and we get policy and we study a lot. But is this enough for us to secure our happiness in the afterlife? What do you guys think?
No.
No. What do we
No.
need to do to really have a clear conscience after we die?
It's like we need to, learn and put in practice what we learn.
Exactly.
Not
Exactly.
just learn. Uh-huh.
So it's not that, going, getting past and going to communion and going and doing these things. It's not that that's bad. It's just that you have to have the feeling along with it. Because if you're just doing the outward practices and you're not doing the inward reform as well, then you're going to kind of not be complete there. So it's important for us to also reflect on our own lives and how we are acting in relation to this as well. So the good news is the fear of death diminishes in proportion as we obtain a clearer anticipation of the future life. It disappears entirely when that anticipation has become a certainty. So we're still at this point that, what's going to happen after life? And I like to believe that we is someone talking? Okay.
No, I think it was echoing.
I'm echoing?
It was probably just some parts you can hear some echoing. That's
Okay,
all.
let me know.
Not all the time.
Am I better now?
Yeah, you are good.
Okay. So the more we become certain of the afterlife, the more this fear is going to disappear, and we're not going to have so much anxiety, let's say, about what happens to us after we die. There is a video of a man that I found that he had a heart attack and he was in the hospital for 4 days in a coma, and he talks about his near-death experience where he had an out-of-body experience and he was able to, see his family members around, and he is describing that this afterlife, he felt such unconditional love that he can't even describe. He felt such happiness, and he was so surprised that the afterlife was going to feel like this, because he says that everything that we've learned for hundreds of years has been a lie. And so this is his opinion. So it's interesting for us to see when people realize that it's different than what they expect. So let's take a look a little bit about what he says. I'm not showing the whole video, just a portion that he talks about his new views, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Death is a lie. Death is a lie that's been sold to us so well over thousands of years, and has made us fearful. And in fearing dying, we fear to live. So don't do that. Live your life. Live your life. Because what happens afterwards is beautiful too. It's more beautiful than this. Have you ever had a really, really bad dream? And woken up from the dream and gone, oh God, it was a dream. I'm so relieved because it was a dream. That's what happens when you die. This is a dream. And we can manipulate this dream if we become lucid.
Okay, so I'm going to stop us there.
Go over
and he keeps talking.
Another video. People talk
Haha.
about manifestation.
Let me
attraction.
get that guy to stop.
You have to become lucid in this dream. When you do become lucid in this dream, you're able to manipulate your reality in a way that
seems like I have frozen.
That you can never imagine. I was forced to go through trauma.
Oh, I'm stuck here.
This ability to change the way you live your life, be able
Sorry, guys, technical difficulty. I don't know why my screen has frozen completely.
Knowledge. This
It's in the other screen, huh? So
It
you
is,
need
but
to
I'm not even able to
back.
click to go anywhere. I'm like,
share, leave comment below.
Oh,
yeah. And here's my
There-
husband. Help me out, honey. It's like my screen.
oh, good.
Okay,
It
so
works.
okay,
No?
let's see.
Good talk.
Can you guys still hear me though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, it's just
Well-
interesting how he had this perception. Are you able to get it out? No.
It was
Interesting.
hard to hear him.
It was hard, probably because it's a video, so it's probably hard hearing on Zoom. But I kind of give you a summary of before is that in his near-death experience, he just felt, and he was surprised how he felt unconditional happiness. He just had this feeling, this sensation that he wasn't expecting to have after death. And he was saying that, you know, we all have this brainwash of how death is going to be, and we all have this, you know, faulty views of how it's going to be. And he's telling us that, you know, hey guys, it's not how it's going to be, so don't worry about it. So that's pretty much his message. Of so we talked about death and physical aspect of it. We said that it's when the organs die. We talked about what the divine laws say about it, and we talked a little bit about the faulty views of death and what happens afterwards. And so now I want to transition into disincarnation. Disincarnation is when the body dies and the spirit is set free from a vehicle he used during his voyage of purification. So it's almost back up here. Let me wait if that goes. Present. Thank you, my savior. Go. Okay, so this is what I just said. So when the body dies, looks like it's still loading. There we go. We can see now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So when the body dies, the spirit is set free from a vehicle, even though it's flashing. Okay. Oh, flashing. Seems like, okay, there we go. This Prezi app takes a lot of, I don't know what you call it, a lot of memory, so it takes a while to load. Okay, so disincarnation. When the body dies, the spirit is set free from a vehicle he used during his voyage of purification. So remembering that our spirit is immortal, and our bodies here on earth are an instrument for us to use to get better. We can still see my video, right? Okay, I'm still there. Okay.
No, you're good.
I'm good. Okay, so talking about disincarnation, let's talk about the role of the parish spirit, the moment of disincarnation, and then our existential purpose. So going into the role of our parish spirit. What is the parish spirit? So we have our spirit and we have our physical body. When we incarnate, our spirit needs a type of glue to connect itself to the physical body. And that is what the parish spirit is. It is an envelope that is semi-material and semi-spiritual that connects, again, the spirit to the body. And when our physical body dies, the parish spirit will disconnect from the body. So that is the disincarnation part. So when we die, death is just the death of our body. But the disincarnation is the actual moment that our parish spirit detaches from our physical body. So we have this band-aid here, and I'll get to that in a second. Spirit's book question 155. How does the separation of the spirit from the body take place? Is this separation sudden? What do you guys think? Do you think it's sudden? Do you think it's not sudden? What do you guys think?
Not certain.
Not sudden. So yeah, so it depends, right? Depends on what we do in our life. So that's what I'm going to get to right now. The spirit gradually separates from the body. The two states are blurred together, and the spirit extracts itself little by little from its bonds, which are loosened but not broken. So in some cases, the parish spirit will detach from the physical body very quickly if that person was more spiritual during their life here on earth. It may be instant, it may be a few minutes, whereas a person who lived very materialistically and gives so much importance to, I don't know, their possessions and the people in their life, you know, this is mine, this is mine, that disconnection of the perispirit from the physical body is going to be much slower, and it can take days, weeks, months, or sometimes even decades. So it really depends on how we live our lives. And I have a Band-Aid here because I think it's very connected. For example, if you were to put a Band-Aid on the chest of a very hairy man and then take it off, it's going to be a little painful, right? What do you guys think? It's going to be, yeah, a little hairy.
Yeah.
So Ricardo was giving me an example, then it's like your life is going to be hairy. I mean, your life was hairy, so when you take it off, it's kind of like, ow. Whereas a person, whereas a Band-Aid that's maybe on your arm for several days and you take several showers, the Band-Aid is probably just going to come off by itself and you're not going to have to pull it off. And this is from a person who has lived more spiritually. And so we want to live our lives in a way that our disincarnation, the separation of our perispirit from our physical body, is going to be like the nice, easy Band-Aid to come off. We want it to be nice and quick and not painful, right?
Yes.
Yes, very good. So an example of a painful Band-Aid I have is of a woman who had throat cancer, and this throat cancer made her breath smell really terrible. And all of her family members couldn't stand being around her. And so they kind of put her in a guest house, I guess, in the back of their house, in like the backyard, those ones who have extra rooms, I guess. And they only would go and see her and drop off food for her. And before she died, she developed such hate for her family because they treated her in such a bad way. You know, they didn't see her and they ignored her. And she really created this huge feeling of hate for them. So when she died, her physical body died, her perispirit stayed super attached to her physical body because she could not let go of that hate for her family. And so her disincarnation was not quick. She was so attached to the material life, to what happened to her, and not forgiving the family members, that disincarnation was very slow and very painful because she kept reliving that hatred that went on in her life. And a more easy Band-Aid example that I have is of a grandpa who was near the end of his days. He was in a hospital. He also had a coma, just like the other guy of the video. And he was super, like all of his organs were super near the end. And, you know, he was hanging on for something. And then the doctor decided to go and have a talk with him, you know, while he was in his coma, and said, you know, hey, it's okay if you go right now because all of your kids, you know, they're grown up, they're married, they're happy, they're successful, they're going to be okay, you know, if you go. And he also said, your wife is also very old. She will also disincarnate very soon. She's going to be okay without you. And then within instance, you can hear the heart rate on the machines just, you know, turn off. So he had let go. He just needed this one little push to let him go. So he wasn't as connected to that physical life as, for example, the woman was. So there we go. Some examples for us to think about there.
Mhm.
Let's go on to the moment of disincarnation. So another example besides the Band-Aid I have is of lemonade. I think that we would all prefer to have a nice, sweet lemonade than to, say, suck on a pure lemon. Would we not?
Yes.
Yes, right? We want some sweet lemonade. We don't want bitter lemon without sugar. So same thing with the Band-Aid example here. We have these words sweet and bitter a lot. I believe it's either in Heaven and Hell or the Spirit's book that talk about disincarnation either being sweet or bitter. And there is a doctor, his name is Illyrio, and he has many videos on YouTube, and he has this one that's called The Process of Disincarnation in Our Lives. It's only in Portuguese. It's a 12 video class, so it's very long. So he goes into lots of detail and explains this process. I'm explaining it very quickly, so I definitely recommend you go and watch this. You can find this title on YouTube. And he goes and explains this sweet and bitter disincarnation very well, and says, for example, that a person who has spent their life following the divine laws the best that they could, they are most likely going to have a very sweet disincarnation. Sweet meaning it's going to be easy and quick and not so painful. It's going to be that nice band-aid that slips off, right? Because they're not attached to the material world. Whereas a person who didn't follow the divine laws, who's very attached to material life, very attached to possessions and the people who are in their lives, that person is most likely going to have a bitter and more hard and longer disincarnation. Again, disincarnation is when your perispirit separates from the body. So it's not just your body dies. You also have this moment, this process of your separation of your perispirit from your body. And also will be bitter if you are a person who didn't really do your best. You didn't really give so much effort in your life. You didn't do good. You didn't do bad. You were just kind of there, you know, neutral, passing by. So when you disincarnate or when you die, you're going to have probably a more heavy conscience because you didn't do what you could have done in the time that you had. Kind of like if you go on a vacation or you have some time off, like right now, we're going to have, maybe some people are going to have 3 weeks off, right? And you think, yes, I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to get, you know, me, I'm going to get my house ready for my baby. That's going to come soon. And so you have all these plans, maybe, but then when the vacation is over, then time is over, you didn't do as much as you would like to do. We don't want that feeling when we die. We don't want to feel like, oh man, I wasted my time here. And then when we die, we're going to have this feeling of not doing as good as we want to. And it's going to make the band-aid a little bit harder to fall off. So there was that. And example is we have also in this video, Alira talks about a man named Ambrosio, where he was a spiritist on his life, but he was also a very proud man, and he was very attached to the material. And when he died, he did not disincarnate quickly. He actually went to a place, maybe kind of like Umbral, it doesn't really say much about it, but he's in a very dark cave, and he is handcuffed, imprisoned by all the inferior spirits around him, and he can still smell the stench of his corpse that died. And how long is he in this state for? 20 years.
Wow.
So a very, very, very long time, because he was so attached to material. Can you imagine? I mean, you're smelling your own corpse and you're just in this dark cave and you're handcuffed, you know, by people. So it's not a very nice thing to happen. And it just goes to show us how important it is to live our life and develop those virtues, and don't be so attached to the material possessions, because we want to have that sweet disincarnation. Let's take a look. Any question, any comment? Someone was going to say something? No?
No, very.
Very, very deep, right? Things,
Yeah.
Food for thought there. Very, very good here. So continuing with what Alira talks about, we have during the moment of death, the soul recapitulates all the facts of his life to evaluate its success on its existential purpose. So what does this mean? So we ask ourselves, what is our purpose? What is our mission here in life? Maybe some people will say, oh, it's my job or it's my family. And it very well could be. But what's important is that, are you also, when you're at your job or in your family, are you developing virtues? So virtues are going to be on the vertical line, which are more spiritual. Vertical because it's going up towards God. And the horizontal line is a little bit more material. So if you say that your purpose is your job, okay, so let's ask ourselves then, at my job, am I nice to my boss? Am I kind to my colleagues? Am I doing the best that I can? Am I, you know, do I have good work ethic? Am I good treating my people? So again, it depends on your purpose. It's important for us to remember that our purpose is very connected to the virtues that we need to develop in that life. So example, for me, for example, so here I am giving a lecture, and at Jazz, I also give youth classes. I also do the event team, and who can replace me if I stop giving lectures? Anybody can replace me. If I stop giving lectures, someone else is going to replace me. If I stop some job, someone is going to replace me. But on the vertical aspect, the spiritual side, virtues, who can develop the virtue of love for me? Only me. No one else can do that for me. So it's very important that we realize there are some certain things like virtues that only we can develop. So we have to remember that our purpose in our life is to develop these virtues because no one else can do them for us. The horizontal line, people can replace me. People can replace me at work. People can replace my lecture. So we want to feel that we've done a job well done after we disincarnate. And that's more if we are focusing on our virtues. If we did super good at our job and, oh yes, I gave 133 lectures in my lifetime, is that going to make me happy after I die? Not as much as if I develop the virtue of love or patience, okay? So quickly, that's the idea of the vertical and the horizontal for us to reflect and remember that our purpose is related to develop virtues. So that's that. I hope I was able to kind of identify the difference between death. Again, death is the physical aspect of our body, organs stop working. And then disincarnation is that process of the detachment of our perispirit from our physical body. And it's more or less slow, depending on how we live our lives. Let's take a look at quickly how that is related to the transition that we are in right now. And if you were at the lecture last week that Ricardo was given about the transition of planets, we know that we are currently on a planet of trials and expiations, and we are moving on to one of regeneration. So let me see here. So just as that's called a world of trials and expiations, there are lots of trials that we have here. There are, for example, lots of rebellious spirits here who perhaps steal and perhaps murder, that, you know, cause suffering to us and maybe abuse power. So we kind of have to deal with these spirits who are here around us and maybe create some suffering, some pain for us. We have natural disasters all the time, you know, earthquakes here in California, fires, tsunamis, lots of things that are trials, and they help us to progress. That's what we need to also remember. Wars, the previous week, Daisy had talked about wars. And then diseases, right? We have a disease going on right now that is affecting everybody. And it just, in this world of trials and expiations, we have all of this suffering and all this pain, but it's for us to progress, for us to learn from them. On one video that Joanna was talking about related to the coronavirus, he was saying that it's part of the world of trials and expiations to have these kinds of dilemmas. And he was saying that in Greek, crisis means that there's a problem, but it makes us create a solution for that. So hopefully with this coronavirus, we are maybe learning some things, some good things. I know that I think it's really good that the families are home and they're together, so it kind of creates that family bond. I like to think of it in that way. And so for us to remember that we're all in this process of the world of regeneration, and when we have these problems, it is helping us be strong and helping us to face and conquer those challenges, and we have the hope of a better world in the future. And hopefully that really gives us faith to keep on persisting and, you know, overcoming these obstacles with lots of faith and lots of love and lots of patience. And what else can we do while we're on this process to the world of regeneration. We can deny the material and embrace the spiritual. So quickly here, Spirit's Book question 150. Does the soul take anything of this life away with it? I think not. Only the memory of it and the desire to move on to a better world. This memory may be sweet or bitter, depending on the course of the life it has left. The more advanced its purification, the more clearly it recognizes the fertility of what it has left behind on earth. Right? So again, repeating what we've said a lot already. Constantly reflect upon death so you are not caught by surprise. We should always train ourselves that death can come at any moment. What would you do if you were to disincarnate tomorrow? Would you worry about who has your car? Would you worry about, oh no, who is gonna, I don't know, remarry my husband? Like, are you really worried about these things? So what happens if maybe a close loved one dies? How are you going to react to that? How are you going to readjust your life to those kinds of changes? Examples of people who have lost their entire houses in the California fires recently. You lose your possessions instantly. So what would happen if you died today? How would you react to that? Are you ready to have that smooth transition that we're talking about? So we should be training ourselves every day for that, because we don't even know when it's going to happen. Embrace the spiritual. We must acquire substantial gifts for our spirit. So again, get those virtues. They're very important. They're the gifts that we will not lose. We cannot bring our possessions with us, but we can bring our virtues with us. And I saw this nice picture this week. Life is super tough when you can't pick up the book you want because you're sitting on it. So us looking at this, we're like, poor boy, just stand up and take the book out and you have it. And then I think the spirits are probably looking at us the same thing. Like, I'm going through some difficulty and they're like, Katie, just do this, just forgive, or just be more patient. So again, some things are so simple for us to do, for us to overcome our challenges if we just look for them. So again, embrace the spiritual for our virtues, very important for disincarnation. And finally, I would like to end with a reflective meditation. I hope that you guys have enjoyed talking about this today. And for the reflective meditation, you can close your eyes. It's talking about what we learned today. Close your eyes, or I also have some clouds here that you can look at if you prefer. So just sit and relax and close your eyes while I speak here. Close your eyes. Make contact with your true self in essence. Looking to reflect on the content talked about tonight and really feeling the meaning within your spirit. How can you apply what you understood to your life? Did the content we talked about change your view of death and the process of disincarnation in any way? If it did, what changed? During our talk, we reflected about death and the process of disincarnation, and that the detachment of the spirit from the physical body at the time of death will be more or less slow, depending on whether the person was a materialist or whether he or she had a habit of elevating his or her thoughts by conducting moral, intellectual practices. How do you feel in relation to this? Do you make an effort to elevate your thoughts to align them with the divine laws, encouraging you to practice good virtues. How do you feel about your life when you apply the content learned from today? Do you feel that it could improve your life, helping you to transform yourself and do good? Being the immortal spirit that you are, you have the divine determination to evolve into relative perfection through complete knowledge and fulfillment of the divine laws, by practicing virtues and by looking to unite yourself with God. Dive deep inside of this spiritual truth. Feel and see yourself following the divine laws and developing all the essential virtues of life over time. Feeling and knowing the objective of having a life in a body, which is a true gift for us to conquest perfection. Please prepare now for Claudine to do our prayer.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I do.
Thank you. So let's try to relax a little bit and be in a comfortable position. Turn off from our minds all the distractions and elevate our thoughts to Jesus, to God. Thinking about our planet, sending a lot of love to every country, especially all the countries that are affected by the coronavirus. Sending a lot of love, light. Sending love also to everybody who is at the hospital, all the patients. Thinking also about the doctors, nurses. Maybe them be patient and also give love to everybody at the hospital. People that are going through stress, anxiety, because they are there. Sending lots of love also for those who are in the nursing homes, in the prisons. Or those who are in the places for people with mental illnesses. Also sending love and light to everybody who does not have a house and live in the streets. May they feel at this moment the warmth in their heart, helping them feel somehow happy and good about themselves. Sending lots of love to all the presidents, politicians for all the different countries. May them make the right decision and be inspired and be able to listen to all the inspirations. Also thinking about our homes, sending lots of love and light to everybody in our houses, in Brazil or here. And at this moment, we are going to also do our collective passy, thinking about the spirits that work at Joanna de Angelis Spiritist Society, thinking about Jesus. May at this moment we all receive a rain of light that touches our physical bodies, renewing ourselves, going to all the different organs of our bodies, going also to our minds, our brain, balancing the neurotransmitters. May this rain of love and light help us feel good, giving us the strength that we need in this moment. May this rain of light help us not to be fearful, but to be brave at this moment that our planet is living. Thank you, dear God, for all we have, our health, our families, our lives. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining our virtual lecture today. And we will be back next week with Bruno.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.